Hello, welcome to How to Bake. Today we will be making pumpkin bars. Our dry ingredients need white flour, salt, baking soda, cinnamon, sugar, and baking powder. For our wet ingredients, we need vanilla, oil, pumpkin puree, and 4 eggs. Step 1. Spray your pan down very good, otherwise it will stick. Then, get out your dry ingredients. We will need the big bowl, the pumpkin puree, the oil, the sugar, and the eggs. Next, take 1 cup of oil and pour it into your bowl. But be careful not to spill. Next, take 1 2/3 cup of sugar and add it to your mixing bowl. Next, take 1 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree and add it to your bowl. Use a spatula if needed. Sometimes the pumpkin will stick to the wood, and remember, scrape that off. We don't want to be wasteful. Once you have all of it in your bowl, start cracking eggs into your bowl. You will need 4 eggs. Eggs that are left out to sit on your countertop before baking make for a better and squishier and more absorbent cake. Make sure that no shell gets into your batter, because then you'll have hard chunks floating around when it bakes, and this does not taste good. Remember, always wear an apron and clean up after yourself. After that, mix all, but make sure you get everything combined, especially the egg. For your dry ingredients, you will need the flour, the cinnamon, the pumpkin spice, the baking powder, and the baking soda and the salt. Take 2 cups of white flour. You can use a knife or the edge of your container to smooth it out. Then you will need 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. You can use the edge of the cinnamon container or the lid or a knife to scrape it off and make sure it's level. Once you have your 2 teaspoons of cinnamon in, it is time for the baking powder. We also need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Baking powder usually has a thing that you can scrape off your teaspoon on, so use that to make sure it's level. Don't put too much in though, otherwise it will rise too much and be very, very tall. Next, we need 2 teaspoons of pumpkin spice, or pumpkin pie spice. Use the sides of the container or knife to make sure that it is very level. Remember, when you're using spices, never reuse the same teaspoon, or the spices will become cross-contaminated. Next, you need salt. You also need 1 teaspoon of salt for this, not 2. Never put in extra salt, or your dish may become too salty. Next, you need 1 teaspoon of baking soda, not baking powder. Use the edge of your container to scrape it off. Next, you're going to use a whisk and whisk it up. If some gets outside of the bowl, that is okay. Now, step 4. Mix dry and wet ingredients together. Pour your dry ingredients into your wet ingredients bowl and use a spatula to mix them. Don't overmix or your dish will become flat. It's okay if you spill, but make sure you clean up afterwards. Once it is fully mixed, get ready to pour it into the pan. Now we're pouring into the pan. Step 5, pour batter into pan. Make sure all of the batter is in the pan. Feel free to scrape the edges of the bowl to get it all. Once it is all in the pan, you can use the spatula to smooth out the top and make sure it's even. If it's not even, some parts won't be done. Now, bake at 30 to 35 minutes at 355 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we are making the frosting. Step 1, we're going to mix everything together. For this, we will need 2 teaspoons of butter, 1 8-ounce package of cream cheese. And remember, always leave the butter and cream cheese out on your counter for at least an hour before doing this. Otherwise, they will not be soft enough. Also, feel free to use a spatula to get all of the cream cheese out of the container. You can also make this frosting while your pumpkin bread is cooking. Make sure to get all of the cream cheese off of the container. Next, you are going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Pour the vanilla onto the teaspoon, but make sure to pour it over the bowl. You don't want to spill. Next, mix it up with the spatula. Sometimes spatulas don't work when you're mixing cream cheese and butter together. So instead, you can use a hand mixer if things get too tough. Though I would advise against using a whisk because the cream cheese will just get stuck in it. So I'm going to change to a hand mixer because that's a lot easier. Put your hand mixer on medium to start and mix it up. Then you can increase the speed. Make sure it is nice and whipped before continuing on. Whip for 10 to 15 seconds. Next, we are going to take 2 cups of powdered sugar. But first, we are going to sift the powdered sugar so that way it's nice and smooth. Otherwise, we will have very, very chunky frosting. So measure out your powdered sugar in a measuring cup or a glass cup, and then pour it onto a sifter or a strainer with thin mesh. It's okay if some of the powdered sugar falls into the bowl. What you're going to do is shake the strainer or sifter, or you can even use something like a spoon to hit it with. Make sure the only thing remaining in the strainer is just little hard clumps, and we'll get those at the end. It's okay if you spill, but remember, always clean up. Then you're going to mix on low, because if you don't, the powdered sugar will come right back out of the thing. Mix on a low speed, and slowly when it comes together, you can increase it to high. Sometimes it gets hard to mix the frosting, and then you can take your spatula and stick it in between the beaters to make it smoother. You can also use your spatula to scrape the edges of the bowl to get all of your sifted powdered sugar. Next, we're going to add 1 more cup of powdered sugar. You can put as much powdered sugar as you want in this frosting to make it as smooth or as thick as desired. I am only going to add 2 cups though. You can also use something like a spatula to hit the edges to make it go faster. Remember, even if you spill, always clean up your messes. Once you only have a little bit of powdered sugar left and it's just chunks, you can take a spoon and just try and smush it down, or you can just leave it be. Remember, mix on a very, very slow speed, otherwise it will come right back out of the bowl. Then you can slowly increase your speed. Whip it until it has a nice consistency, 30 to 50 seconds. Once it is almost smooth, then take a spatula and scrape down the sides. Then feel free to just mix with the spatula until fully combined. Remember, always get the stuff on the edges. Once you feel that it is fully mixed and ready, then take out your pre-mixed and pre-baked pumpkin bar cake and get ready to put the frosting on it. You won't need your beaters anymore, so you can put those away. Take a smooth frosting tool and put 1 lump of frosting onto your cake. Then, ever so slowly, use your smooth frosting tool to frost it. If some pumpkin bar peels away, that is okay. But remember, always go slow. This could take a while, so have patience. It's not always instantaneous. Just slow strokes back and forth, adding as you go. You should have enough frosting to cover it. If you don't, you can apply a thinner layer or not apply any at the edges for easier storage. Slow and steady wins this race for sure. Because if you go fast, it will peel up the pumpkin bar. And then chunks of pumpkin bar will be stuck in the frosting. And that does not look good. Remember, you can scrape the edges of the bowl to get more of the frosting out. Remember, doing this properly takes lots of practice. So if you don't get it right on the first time, that's okay. It's the effort that counts. Remember, slow and steady. Once you get the middle, start in the middle and work outward, slowly pushing and pulling the frosting. I'm going to skip ahead to when I have it fully finished. Next, we are going to put some cinnamon and sugar on it. Take the cinnamon and take sugar. I would recommend about 2 tablespoons of sugar and 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. Then stir with a spoon. Once the cinnamon and sugar is fully stirred, you can slowly sprinkle it onto the frosting with a spoon. Another way to sprinkle it is to put it on the spoon and then lightly hit it with your finger to make it dust. You can do whatever pattern you like. If there are too many clumps of cinnamon and sugar together, feel free to blow on them or fan them with your hands to make it spread out more. Once you are done dusting with cinnamon and sugar, then your dish is complete. Put it in the refrigerator for storage and can be stored up to 3 days. Very delicious. I am sure that this dish will be a fan favorite at whatever potluck or get together you are going to, or just for fun. Now I'm going to try it. I give that one a 5 out of 5. See you next time.